Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too, because you're watching content like this. The name of this channel is Manifesting Magic the Practical Way, because there are a lot of practicalities related to manifesting magic that we must face down. That's a good way to put it. Nonetheless, let's get into it today. Today, what I'm discussing is gatekeepers. And the reason why this topic is so interesting to me and so important is because I remember about 7 years ago, 7 to 10, because let me just add this up real quick. If it's 2022, it was around 2012. So I was teaching something. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head. I feel like I was still teaching computer science. And I remember it had to be because this is the top. But I used to bring computer science into sociology. So I was always, but nonetheless, I was telling the students that they were moving into a world where there were no gatekeepers, essentially. I'm like, you want to publish a book? You can go do that now. You don't have to go wait for some big publishing company. You want to have access to an audience? You can get on social media and do that. You want to have a website that sells your homemade candles and soaps and all this kind of stuff. I was like, you're moving into a space where you're having this free online real estate. I was like, it's almost as if you've inherited some land from a distant grandparent or a distant family member. And they're like, here is I bought you some land on the information highway. You have free real estate. You can put whatever you want on it, right? And so I think that in that process, I didn't realize how real those conversations were, because I knew that these students would be more in a position more to where they could use online services and all that kind of stuff to promote and push themselves. But at the same time, I didn't really think so deeply into what that meant for control over your own destiny, right? For control over your own manifestations. It's like when you realize that there's nobody standing in front of you that's going to say, no, you can or cannot do something, then you have to come to the realization that you are the only thing holding you back. And it might be an annoying realization, but at the same time, it's freedom. Because if you're the only person that's holding you back, then you're the only person that's in charge and you're the person with all the power, right? So when I think about gatekeepers, I think about the ability to be able to step into the world, do what it is you do what it is you love, and to share it without worrying about whether or not somebody's loving it or receiving it, but just knowing that you're sharing your most authentic self and you're doing something that you love, right? College degrees, I'm a college person, but at the same time, that's a gatekeeper. That gatekeeper is no longer valid in a lot of industries, right? So there's a lot of things that people do. You can go into counseling and coaching and all this stuff with other people. You don't have to have a degree to do it. You just have to have relationships with the people in the audience, right? Especially money. You used to have a big brick and mortar to sell products, to do things online, to share your life and all this stuff. But you don't need to do that anymore. You have access to all these online services that allow you to create whatever it is you choose. One of the biggest issues that people have with creating is usually the marketing aspect of it, right? And that's generally when you have to call in someone else and say, help me market this item or whatever. I'm not good at that stuff either. But that's one of the things. So if you are not accomplishing or either on the road to creating something that you choose in this day and age, it's definitely related to you holding yourself back. And it sounds so crude because there's so many different situations that can happen. And we know that the success we're looking for doesn't happen overnight. But the idea that it is available to you and you can create it is the real deal, right? Because let me tell you, there was a day when people could slam doors in your face and that was the only avenue to get something done. And then you were stuck, right? But the fact that you are your own gatekeeper in so many ways means that you have more fluidity in a lot of environments than you actually probably understand, right? So a lot of us are still hung up on what someone might think, what people might say, what they might do, whether people are interested, am I going to embarrass myself, blah, 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 blah. I always say, think about all that stuff and then think about this. One day, we'll all be dead. And I don't say that to be morbid. I'm saying that to be, who cares what people think? Who cares if they would have liked it or they wouldn't have liked it? But you don't want to go through your life and get to the end and start talking about all the regrets you have for the things that you were too afraid to put yourself out there for, right? So just keep that in mind. You don't have gatekeepers anymore. The only gatekeeper you have is yourself. And if you can get that and let that sink in, you'll realize there's no shame in doing anything that you love. There's no shame in putting yourself out there. There's no shame in reaching for the big and if you're falling short, because the reason is everybody wants to achieve a lot of the same stuff. And if you're worrying about what somebody else is thinking, you're probably more caught up on haters, which you're wasting your time with, rather than thinking about how much you're inspiring other people to go out on the limb and do these things for themselves. Because I can honestly tell you, I didn't have a life that I loved until I stopped thinking about other people being able to control what I bring to the table, right? So at this point in my life, I have several streams of income. That's how I always wanted to be, right? I have, let me think, 4 streams of income I can think, solid ones. And that's the way I want to keep it. And I have streams of income where I want to see some of them rise, like my book sale income. I would like to see that rise and maybe take over one of the other incomes that I don't want to do anymore, you know? But at the end of the day, it's a good thing to remember that you have the options and you have the ability to create something that's great for you, to create something that you believe in, that you enjoy, and that you can bless in your own little special, unique way of doing it. And you don't have to wait for other people's yes, right? And that term comes from a little book I wrote a few years ago called Stop Waiting on Other People's Yes. Because I realized even back then that we no longer had these imaginary lines that we've created in so many ways. And I used to ask the students all the time, when we're removing a lot of gatekeepers in society, what do you think the next thing is going to be? And I remember some students saying a moneyless society. Some said paperless, no paper for anything. Another said borderless, right? Because we don't have to interact with governments and other types of people and what do they call ambassadors and all that sort of thing, consulates, in order to interact and do business with people in other countries. No, we're pretty borderless in that sense, right? People keep nationalism alive. We're the ones who are dedicated to the countries that we're from and all that. But if we really think about it on a deeper sense of it, this globe, it's all one at this point. So if we can keep that in mind and like remove these imaginary barriers that we create and that we believe in and keep for ourselves, we'll realize that we're a lot more free than what we actually think and much more free than the way that we actually operate. Anyway, that's what I want to talk about today. Gatekeepers, right? I think that's so important. Get rid of the gatekeepers. They don't exist. If you're being held back at this point in the world, it's because you have not realized that you are the only one that's in charge of where you go next, of what move you make next, of the first step, right? And sometimes the first step is just writing it down and making it plain and real. And then the next things that are supposed to happen will start to flow in. Making one step, taking a phone call, making an appointment, looking something up online, gathering information. But then you got to be careful because a lot of people get to that point and then they still think, well, nobody's going to want to buy this. Nobody's going to let me do this. Nobody, oh my God, that's not true. A lot of people are interested in what you have to offer. And there's nobody and nothing standing in your way from giving that thing to the world. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Keep on manifesting the magic in the life that you choose. And great things are going to happen. They're going to keep on happening. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.